Hi, I'm Debbi Dunn Solomon, and sorry I didn't get the message to bring you slides, but as a content strategist, you have to think visually as well as with the words. Before I start, I don't know if you did this before you got here, sorry you were late, but how many people in here already are working in the role of being a content strategist, whether or not you have the title? Are you doing content strategy? Okay. Of those of you who are not doing content strategy, how many of you work with someone who does content strategy? Okay, keep your hands up. And only put your hands down if you don't find value in what they do. Okay, so hands up, that's fine. All right, so in other words, you're already attuned, you're already involved in the field to some extent. One of the people whose names was up there before, David Dylan Thomas, famous about knowing about content strategy, he says that a lot of people work in content strategy and they're content strategists and they don't even know it. And really that's my journey. I've always been working in content and didn't know to think of myself as a content strategist until a few years ago. And actually you introduced me as being at Merck, but I'm freelance just as Danielle is, yes. So the gig economy. The first image that I would put up if I had slides, would be a filing cabinet. So I want you to think about that filing cabinet. It's full, okay? I have been involved in a number of website redos and redesigns where an organization loved what was in their filing cabinet. Everything that was on the website. And I want to tell you right now, you cannot think of the content on a website as a filing cabinet. And people become so attached, right? Those PDFs that no one has looked at, right? But they have to be there because how else would I find them? Well, when was the last time you looked for them, right? But sometimes as a content strategist, you're working almost in an account management way. You're working really closely with the client, with people who are going to use the site. And my background is mostly in nonprofits and foundations and institutions and organizations. So there are times when people, when their first or second website, they've decided one of the things they loved about it was that they were able to find things they as staff needed. Okay, I came to a website that when I wrote the RFP to get vendors to come in and redo it, among ourselves we said, this website is put together with duct tape and chewing gum. And it has like 10-year-old newsletters on it, print newsletters that they don't have anymore. But they felt very strongly that those had to be available. And so a big part of content strategy is helping the people who own that content to do the Marie Kondo thing. Does it still give you joy? Can you let it go? Why is no one reaching out for it? No one is really looking for it. If you really need it, put it on a thumb drive. You'll be able to find it, right? But your audience doesn't need it. If they need it, if there's some article in some old newsletter that's worth people seeing, that's a current topic, okay, we'll take that content and feature it on the website. But it's this kind of, going forward, looking in the rearview mirror, what I've always had attitude. And so that's one of the things that as a content strategist, you have to strategize not only what is the right information to have on a website and how to display it and what do the users want, who's coming to the website, but you really have to work with your clients, your customer, the people who are paying you, who own that content. And that's a really important part of the strategy. Now, so you talk to these people and people say, you know, no one comes to our website. We want a website that will get a lot more hits. Second image I want you to imagine. Did you see the movie Field of Dreams? Imagine that baseball field out in the middle of Iowa or wherever it was, out in the middle of nowhere with Kevin Costner out there. And what was the saying with that movie? Say it again.
If you build it, they will come.
It's not true. Sorry. Just because you build a website, no matter how elegant the technology, that doesn't mean anyone will come. And so part of the content strategy, and again, this is sometimes a challenge or a hurdle, is that an organization will scrape together a budget for the website and not have given any thought to the strategy of getting people to the content, to the website. If you build a website, you have to understand how people are coming. Why are they coming? What are they looking for? What do they want to get? And that's where the strategy comes in terms of how you architect the site and how the content strategist works with all the rest of the team that's involved in putting a website together. Because you want it to be an intuitive experience. So that means understanding that when someone comes in and they want something to be clickable, that it's clickable. What do you, if you are, big thing, and we're going to have online registration for our next conference, and build this into our website. Well, what do people want to know when they register? I don't know if you have choices at the Conduit conference, but you want to be able to click around. You want to, when I look at that schedule, I want to know, well, who's speaking and what's that person's file, what's the topic, right? And I can't remember what the choices were for 4 o'clock, but you're asking me to pick which one I want to go to. So I need to be able to go back and see the list of who's speaking and what's it about. Does that interest me? Now, the does that interest me part, content strategy. How is that written? How short is it? So that people can access it and absorb it and use it. And then they feel good about, they don't understand that they feel good about all the work you did with the content, and they feel good about the website, they feel good about the organization, and they feel good about going to this conference. Because you made it easy and intuitive for them to do what they wanted to do. The other thing I might have put up that might be a little harder to imagine is the great, Y graph. So they want to count how many people, are coming to the site. Can you put in whether you do, whether you prove that you've gotten great SEO, whether you've gotten, a lot of hits, you have a zillion people, texting about or tweeting about what's on your site. People think they want the numbers, but I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, quality is more important than quantity. And it's a mistake, it's a strategic mistake to be trying to build something and attract people and see how many people you can get to come to the site. Because the question is, how many people, click through, take an action, answer the call to action. And again, that's how it's written. That's how it's organized. It's where they find the information that prompts them to take an action. I had an experience where I was working for a foundation, a grant-making office, and for the first couple years that I was there, the call for proposals for this particular grant-making program only was updated by like the dates that the applications were due. And the language was really dense, and the ethos there was that we don't want to be too specific about who can apply or what kind of an idea might be eligible, because we might lose a great idea because somebody might think that they were not eligible. So the phones were ringing off the hook. They wanted a website that would keep people from calling because people didn't understand what the criteria were. But by clinging to that call for proposals, you could break that up into a lot of different pages, but the information was still confusing, and it was, in addition to being confusing, it was just too vague. So I finally got them to let me rewrite it, and work with rubrics and push people and talk to the whole team about, well, would you really entertain an idea that's in this category? Like if one of your criteria is innovation, don't you really need to be clear about how do you define innovation? It's hard to define, but can you give people some examples, some sense of a continuum of under what circumstances your idea is not innovative enough to make it worth it for you to go through all the effort of applying, and for the entire team that reviews the applications to go through all the effort just to turn people down. So we made it a lot more specific, and what do you know? The applications jumped by 14%, and we had 300 a year, and everybody thought that was terrific, except that still about 50% of them were really not good enough. They weren't eligible, or they were eligible, but they weren't competitive. So we had quantity, but not quality. And so the goal then became to define the program, and then to present the program and to reach out to the people who might have the ideas that would be eligible in a way that actually was more narrow and more specific. And the applications went down to about 175, which made people very nervous, like, oh, they're going to close our office because no one's applying. But the reality was that of those 175 applications, about 80% of them were quality. And they were competitive, and that was worthwhile. So again, quality more important than quantity. Going back to the idea of you may be doing content strategy and not knowing it, and so then going to sell yourself and say to somebody, you can hire me to do content strategy. I think it has so much to do with it's writing, and it's being organized, and it's appreciating how one engages, whether it's the emails that are coming in, and when you organize content, by the way, and you're thinking about how you're going to entice people to come, it's really important that you not just create a great website, that you have to think about, well, if this is an organization, or if you're going to recommend that they use e-newsletters, or that they have a very active Facebook page, or whatever it is that they're going to do to find the people whom they really want to come, then that really needs to be part of thinking about the site. Those emails should look like the site, right? There should be a visual connection. There should be language connection. This is all part of the strategy, that the strategy can't stop with just building the site, because if you build it, that's not enough to make them come, right? So it's a matter of being able to wear a lot of hats, because you have to wear the hat of the person who, the goal of the organization, or the goal of the owners of the site. What is it? What are their goals? It's not the goal. It's not the website's goals. It's the goal of the organization, of the client, of the company that you're advertising. How do you turn the content into that funnel that we talk about to get people to take the actions? why do people want that content, the ones who are putting it out there? You have to put on the hat of the person who is coming to the site, and you have to be able to put on the hat of all your team members. What do the developers need? What makes sense technically? You know, will things look good, you know, on the phone? How can you make sure, can you be the one to be sure that things don't fall through the cracks? And I'd say that's the ultimate goal of a content strategist, is to be able to think from, you know, the balcony and the dance floor, to be able to organize all of that information, but continue to have multiple lenses that you use to look at it. And again, I really liked it when I found that David Dylan Thomas said that a lot of people are content strategists without even knowing it, because I think, in fact, if you think about it, it's something that we all deal with, whether you think that's your particular profession or not.